So good morning or whatever time that you're watching this. Very first apology. Sorry, this is not the normal class video. I forgot to push the button. So stupid me. Second apology about when this past Wednesday. Had a minor kind of health scare. Everything's fine. Everything's serious. Please don't panic. Please don't send any, I'm sorry. Just minor scare. Turned out to be nothing too bad, but still just something to be, something I had to take care of. So I'm recording this video for the lesson that we were supposed to have for Wednesday that we had actually today, Friday, January 22nd. That, of course, I forgot to record in class. So you're going to get probably a more brief version and less participatory version than the actual class. I'm recording this. I am also recording a second video that is the material that we should have covered actually today, but is a makeup video. So that will be posted sometime later today as well. The participation assignment will be due on Tuesday so that you have enough time to review the material and to watch this, to review the material, and then to be able to take the participation assignment. We saw in talking about intentions and all of that, we talk a lot about actions and how we act. But the main way that we act, the main way that we normally think about acting is in the form of habits. If you think about, what has led you to where you're at now, it is because of habits. We only really act in a very habitual way. Think about what you did this morning. Did you wake up at a random time? Did you do random activities, or did you do the same thing that you've always done in all of these things? More likely that you've done the usual. That's because we are habitual creatures. We don't like to have to reinvent the wheel. Steve Jobs, and near the end of his life, the end of his time at Apple and the end of his life, was famous for having one outfit that he had, kind of a black kind of t-shirt, sweatshirt thing, and blue jeans. And people went out to ask him, why do you only wear the same thing? And he talked about it helped him focus his energy and his intellect and all his faculties on the big things he was doing, because there was one less decision he had to make. We do the same. We don't like being overwhelmed by decisions. So it is that we form these habits to do what we are, do what we want to do. We could say that habits are kind of a middle ground, as it were, in reflecting between the person, between what we are as an individual person that is, in one sense, kind of unchangeable, and at the same time, acts, our actions. Acts are completely and totally malleable, changeable. Habits are less malleable, but they do define somewhat or reflect somewhat who and what we are, what is our character, what it means to be ourselves. So a habit then is defined very simply in this way. It is defined as an abiding quality that inclines one to act in a certain way. An abiding quality that inclines one to act in a certain way. And a habit characterizes who a person is. It is not completely who we are, obviously, but it is a part and parcel of who and what we are. It reflects our intentions, and it reflects what we desire, what we think is important. A habit develops in three ways. So first of all, we go against a contrary habit. The example of, The in-person class for this class meets at 8 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Let's be honest, most college students don't get up at 8 in the morning, let alone to be up and ready and active for an 8 a.m. class. But for that class, for this action, you have to go against the contrary habit of perhaps sleeping in late or going to bed late. That instead of going to bed at midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., something like that you have to go to bed earlier, maybe 11, maybe even 10. Depends on how much sleep you want. So to develop a habit, first of all, you must go against the contrary habit. Next, it must be continual intentional repetition. This class meets from now until the end of April. So, if you want to keep attending that class in person, even if you're doing it on Zoom, you have to get up at the same time every day to be able to do that. So you have to force yourself to do that. Lastly, the habit becomes so repetitious that it becomes ingrained in us, that it becomes second nature. By the end of this semester, if you're participating in this class in person, it may become second nature to wake up at that time, to wake up at that 6:30, 7:30 even, to be able to walk over to class and to participate or to sign on and to be able to do that. So this is what a habit is and how it is we form it. Going against a contrary habit, continually repeating it to the point of it becoming ingrained within us. These habits develop because of our intentionality. We intend to do something, and these habits help us to do it, whether it is the basics of caring for our body, whether it is the bigger goals of doing well in university and succeeding in university and succeeding in the world. These habits help shape what we want to do, help us realize those things that we want to do and to help get them done. Ralph Waldo Emerson, in talking about these, talking about all this, he says, sow a thought and reap an action. Sow an action and reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. So in all of this, this thought process leads to continual repetitive action. Helps shape our character, helps shape our future. We well, let's be honest, we will be doing a lot of this in entering into the workforce. Many of us may have the basic 9 to 5 job. So you have to get up at a certain time. You have to get yourself cleaned up, look decent, appear decent, nourish yourself, whether the basics of coffee or breakfast, something more, something less, maybe some exercise to help you. Get yourself to work, the drive, the commute, the rush hour, and all of that. Then get down, sit down, do your job, and then come back home. Life will be very habitual, and that's not a bad thing. It is truly what we. It's truly what what helps us become the characters we want to be. So, in looking at these things from a moral perspective, a habit in and of habits in general are not evaluated. Um, Habits are what they are because they are they're somewhat instinctive, and yet we still do them intentionally. But we can divide habits into two groups. There is the first of all, the group of virtues, and the second group, the groups of vices. So both of these are habits. A virtue and a vice is a habit. A virtue is a habit that inclines us towards good behavior, good actions. And not only is a virtue a habit that inclines one towards good behavior, good actions, it also inclines us to do it easily, promptly, and joyfully. A short definition given by the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle says, a virtue is what makes one good and what makes one to act well. By fostering virtue, we can aim towards the good, that which we think is important, that which we think is to be pursued, to be praised, to be desired. A vice, on the other hand, is a habit that inclines us towards that which is less good, or seems to be is what was as a good that seems apparent, or something that may be apparent as a good but is actually not. A little bit of a sidetrack, or a background on this. There's always the thought that, especially looking at this in Christian morality, that the two sides are good and evil. There's good and its opposite, evil. That is not the case in Christian morality. In Christian morality, good and evil are not opposites. Good is that which is to be desired, that which satisfies truly. Evil is the absence of good. So in Christian morality, there is the ultimate good, which is God. God Almighty is the ultimate good, the summum bonum, as sometimes put in medieval morality, the supreme, the highest good, goodness itself, to be stated. Evil is evil insofar as it is away, absent from God, so that it separates itself. Evil is not an opposite. On the contrary, it's absence. Think of it as if you study your physics. Cold is not opposite of heat, though we experience it like that. Cold is the absence of heat. So absolute zero, which is supposedly the coldest that anything can get, would be defined as the complete absence of heat. There is no heat in that subject. So it is with evil. Evil is not the opposite of good. It is a loss of good. So vices are not per se evil actions in the sense that they're the opposite of virtue. No, we are substituting or replacing the ultimate good with a lesser good, with something that does not belong there. So, for example, if your stated goal here, as in attending university, is to pass the classes, obtain the degree, so as to do your job, whatever that job is. Part of that duty is, of course, attending classes, doing the work, doing the reading material, so on and so forth. We also need recreation and rest. Can't be neglected. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. It makes father a dull boy. We need rest. We need relaxation, but in its own place, in its own time, in its own, in balance. If we upset that balance, if we focus more on our video games or our Netflix or our friends against our classes, we are acting in a vicious way. It's not that those things are evil. On the contrary, that we need them. We have to have them. However, we are replacing what we are saying as the ultimate good, in this case, the degree, the finishing of university. We're replacing that with these lesser goods. We're saying by our actions, not necessarily our words, but by our actions, we're saying these are actually more important than getting this degree, doing the classes, doing all this. That's more important. So Acting virtuously is acting towards the supreme good. Now, of course, in the Christian context, this is acting towards ultimately God, which can be done directly and indirectly. It is not just something that we do in anything or everything, but it is, as long as everything that we are doing is directing us in one way towards God, it is good. Virtue helps us to achieve ultimately excellence. Think of it in this example. If you want to be a skilled piano player, for whatever reason, whether you really enjoy music and you want to be able to play, whether you want to achieve the goal of being in the orchestra or being the next Billy Joel or Elton John, whatever it may be. More than likely you are not born with the talent to be able to play the piano automatically right away. So what happens? You have to learn. You have to learn how to play the piano. Well, if you want to achieve that, you have to put in the time and the effort to learn what each note does, what combinations, what sounds they make, and what else is going on. In that example of the piano player, one has to put in the effort in order to become a good player. If you want to play in the best orchestras, if you want to be, a famous star, it's not just pretty looks or who you know. You have to have the skill. So you have to put in the effort to understand the good habits that make you able to make you be able to play the piano well. So virtue helps us achieve excellence in one way or the other. Why is virtue so important? There are a few reasons why virtues are seen as so important and good. The first is they offer reliability. They offer reliability in the sense that one is able to perform duties easily, promptly, and joyfully, as I talked about earlier. You are able to act in a good and easy manner in whatever action you are trying to do, and thus, because you have this reliability for yourself, it is a good predictor of the future. Not just for yourself, but for in your relation with others. People, this is why jobs ask for letters of reference. They want examples to show. They want examples to show that you're going to be able to do this, that you've been doing these virtues or these habits that they want you to have, that exhibit your full qualities, your full potential. So virtues are a good predictor of the future, as well as being a means whereby to spread virtue. If we want something done well, we often have to first do it ourselves. There's the phrase attributed to Gandhi, if you want to change the world, change yourself. And there's a great truth in that. If we want to improve the world, we must first improve ourselves. If we are not up to the standard that we call people to be, how can they do it as well? So they offer reliability. They're a great predictor of the future. They spread virtue. They also very much affect our relations. If we are practicing good habits, good virtues, we are able to uh, affect the world around us, not just by spreading it, but in the way that we interact with others. If we are inclined to do joyful things, good things, wonderful things, then then it may inspire and may well inspire other people to do the same. They will think better of us. They will think well of us. Obviously, we shouldn't do these things just for fame, popularity, whatever. But it does affect and has a real effect on the world around us. Um, so, hence, this is why virtues have been praised uh, throughout the centuries, even outside and before Christianity. Um, we must also be cautious, though. Actions that may be praised as virtuous do not necessarily mean one is virtuous. What I mean, just because we do good things does not mean, first of all, that we're doing them for the right reason. If you remember the last class, the previous class on talking about intentions and freedom, we talked about the three parts of a free intentional action: the object, the intentions, and the circumstances. We, in talking about that, the intentions affect greatly the moral value of any moral object, any action. Just because we do something good, just because we're um, sitting in class, we attend the class, does not completely make it virtuous. If our intention is less than virtuous, it degrades the virtuosity of that action. So we must be aware of that as we move forward in evaluating and practicing these virtues. Um, so our class is going to be consumed for the most part with understanding and evaluating and hopefully even implementing these practices of the virtues. There are two groups that we will look at in the upcoming uh, lessons. The first group is called the Cardinal Virtues. They are so called from the Latin word for a hinge on a door. A door cannot open without a hinge. So hinges are very important to doors. These cardinal virtues are very important for opening the door of ourselves to the world, to the good, especially in the Christian context, to God. Now, these cardinal virtues are not exclusively Christian. They can be practiced by anyone. And in fact, Christian morality took much of this understanding of the cardinal virtues from pre-Christian sources, specifically Greek and Greek and Roman philosophers who thought of these subjects. So the first cardinal virtue that we'll talk about is temperance. Temperance is the right use and moderation of worldly, earthly goods. So temperance will be concerned with food, drink, riches, material things, about how to use them, how to judge them appropriately and use them appropriately. The next virtue is prudence. Prudence is the right judgment and application of our understanding of everything. So, whereas temperance is concerned with material things, use or non-use or abuse or misuse, prudence is more of an internal mental procedure for thinking about how to act in a moral manner, to decide what to do and to apply oneself to doing that. Next is justice, a virtue greatly praised, or somewhat praised, or maybe not praised in the right way, but still praised in modern times. Justice is right relations with others. Right relations with others. Another way of thinking about it is giving one what is due to them. And the last cardinal virtue is the virtue of fortitude, which is constancy in struggle, constancy in doing good, and firmness in difficulties, in times of difficulty, of doing what needs to be done. This fortitude cannot be neglected in the talk of the cardinal virtues. However, in talking about this in a specifically Christian context, we also talk about, these cardinal virtues are focused kind of on the world, the universe. That doesn't mean they can't be oriented towards a divine manner, like in a Christian context, but they are focused on things here and now. However, the other group, the group called the theological virtues, are focused on God, that they direct us, lead us in habits that incline us towards God, whether directly or indirectly through other things, specifically other human beings. There are 3 theological virtues. First, there is faith. Faith is to believe everything that has been revealed to us by God. To believe everything that has been revealed to us by God as coming from God who is truth and goodness. So, second is hope. To trust in the divine providence, to expect from God everything one needs to achieve salvation. We will talk about all of these in more depth in upcoming sessions. We'll talk about them individually or even over multiple sessions. So faith, hope. Lastly, there's love, or sometimes in older texts sometimes called charity. We'll talk about why. Love, which is the desiring of the good for the other. So these are the virtues that we need to practice, we need to understand Christian morality. So what we will do then is that we will be breaking down each one to understand what it is, how it is practiced, to even see it applied, and to see it applied specifically in a Christian context. Whatever your background, whatever your beliefs, and remember that this is supposed to be done in your, you need to do this in your personal morality reflection paper that's due by the end of the day, today, January 22nd. You could talk about these things. You could talk about what is, how do you practice the cardinal virtues? Do you practice any of them? How have you understood them? Do you practice the theological virtues? How do you practice them? That could be a part of your reflection as well. So read up on that. Read up on that material to understand that. The next video, the next section, is beginning to look at the virtue of temperance. What is temperance? What does it mean to practice temperance? What is concerned with practicing temperance? So we will look at that in the next video. So watch that when it is posted. Then read up on that, and we'll see. And hopefully I'm not too stupid to forget to record next time. So read up on that, watch up on that. Any questions or anything, please feel free to contact me as always. So So God bless, and we'll see you soon.